Hey everybody, welcome to Unscripted. We're all about inspiring better conversations and thinking more deeply and critically about faith, life, and leadership. I am Sam, and I'm here today with my good friend Mike. It is so good to have you back in that chair. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Sam. Excited to be back. I watched Unscripted last week with Brian.
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really good. So it was fun to sit back and just watch it. So well done.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Shout out to Brian. Really great having you. Just a great guy.
Yeah.
Just a really great guy. So impressed.
Yeah, it was super fun to have him here in Ripon. We actually went and bought him lunch for sitting down and talking to me. And
Wait, what?
I don't do that with you because it would cost so much. I mean, seriously, right?
Brian got lunch. Oh, I'm out, man.
If you want to allocate.
This is what I got. Brian got lunch. I got Sam's purified water.
Exactly, which was here last week, but it's still here. It's still nice to know.
Wait a minute. Brian got lunch, and I got Brian's undrunk water.
That's exactly it. Well, actually, we were going to share
labeled
it,
with
but we didn't.
Sam.
That's exactly it.
You're big enough now. You got your own water. Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
Totally.
Nice. Okay.
Wouldn't that be great if I actually had my own water, though?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be all right.
it would be really cool. Like,
Just claim this.
just fill it up in a tap and sell it to people for like $7.
What do you think Sam's does?
I'm sure that's what
They're
they do.
not catching rainwater anywhere.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think. Distributed by Walmart in Bentonville, Arkansas.
I'm not sure how that got here, but I'm happy it's here.
Yeah, I don't know why Arkansas.
Although Arkansas is where Walmart's from. That's why. Duh, of course.
And they don't even tell you. Look at this. For water source information, including a bottled water report, go to, and then there's a website.
Nobody's going to go to the website.
They're not even telling you where they got this from. It's somebody's bathtub in Arkansas.
And I think you should drink it.
I did a little, and it was fine. So
we'll be okay.
Apparently, the bathtub's clean.
Anyways, I agree. It was awesome, and I'm so grateful for him, and it was a bunch of good conversation stuff. So I appreciate that. And then I'm glad to have you here because I have a really great topic for us today.
Okay.
But first, you're jazzed about the Bucks.
Oh man, final start tonight. I've been waiting my entire life for this. I'm super jazzed about the Bucks.
It's
I'm
gonna be great
mood about that. I'm in a great mood. Someone stopped in. It's a longtime RCC attender. They now attend at Center Point in Fond du Lac, which is Pastor Aaron's church in Fond du Lac, which he went and planted. They stopped in just to visit, and it was really fun. I love this person. She's really a great girl. And she just asked, like, well, what's up with RCC the past year or whatever, and past 6 months. And it's funny because I guess I hadn't thought about all the good stuff. And then when I started explaining to her, it's like, man, so many good things have happened in the last 6 months. So it just jacked me up. It was like I had so much good stuff to share, and maybe I need to think about that stuff more. So just telling her all the news of RCC in the last 6 months really made my day.
That's awesome because there has been such good things happening.
So much, just so much. So really, really fun. So between that and the Bucks, I'm good to go.
Man,
I'm ready to answer anything right now.
All right, good, because I had a really
don't
fun
ask
topic.
me like at 10 o'clock tonight at the end of the game, because
either it'll be really good or not very good. Which this won't come out until Thursday, so everybody will know. And
okay, good. Yeah,
we'll know what kind of.
Hopefully by Thursday we're up 1-0.
Yeah, that'd be great. Awesome. So with that, I have a question for you. Not a question necessarily, kind of a topic that I want to just dive into with you. The topic is this. I was listening to.
Can I just interrupt for a second? You got me thinking about the Bucks.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Please.
But okay, if any Bucks are watching this, or friends of Bucks, or anyone related to any Buck at all, here's my request. I've been a fan. That's Danny's phone. He's supposed to be operating the camera. He's screwing up, and now you're ruining my Bucks plea. All right, Bucks, listen. This is what I got to deal with at work. All right, and I've been a fan for my entire life. If I could, there's some seats that are really close to the bench. If I could have one of those seats during a finals game some way, I don't know, if you need a chaplain for the game or something, I'd be happy to pray with the guys, pick up shoes and socks, whatever's required. If I get one of those seats, just Pastor Mike at riponchurch.com, just give me a call, and I'll be down there. I'm an hour and 20 minutes away right now. There.
All right, nice plug. I like that.
Okay, it's not a plug, it's a request.
A request. All right, that's really good.
Great seats during the Bucks finals would be mind-blowing, so...
I think it's wild. Like, you've had a few moments in life where there's been championship games, and it's been a big deal for you. Like right now, it's especially the case.
I'm gonna sit like 3 feet from my television and pretend I have great seats.
Have you ever? Sorry, this is totally off topic, but those VR goggle things.
No, but I'm interested because if you watch an NBA game, they talk about. I think it's Oculus is like the official sponsor of the NBA. I don't really know what that means, but I'd like to look into it because that'd be sort of fun.
Like if you could like actually be there. That'd be amazing.
I know, but also kind of lame. Like. You're not really there. You're pretending to be there with a headset on.
That's true.
I don't know. It's like dating a mannequin. I don't know.
I'm not sure
No,
how you
it's
guys
not a real
are
girl.
dating a
Like, come on.
mannequin.
Like, I'm not going to sit in the boat with a mannequin and pretend it's a girl. So I don't want to sit with Oculus.
But it's a real game. Like, it's happening. You're just not
You
actually
just get
there.
the idea of being there. Okay, so if it was a real girl that you could pretend to be on it,
Okay,
I don't know.
okay, never mind. Let's not go down that direction.
It's your show, man.
Okay, here's my question. Here's my topic for today. I was
All right.
listening to this other podcast, and it was talking about this pastor who worked for a really famous pastor, right? Like, so Andy Stanley. Okay, so this kind of, if you're in the church world at all, you probably have heard of Andy Stanley. If you haven't, just know that he's really kind of famous, really great pastor, really
Done a lot
great
of great
church.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So with that, one of the things that this guy said, he had left there to go and go be a pastor at another church somewhere else. And he made this comment that I was struck by. He said that it was okay and actually encouraged if he was thinking about leaving, thinking of not very happy in his position or any of that kind of stuff, he was encouraged to go and speak to Andy Stanley's at the time. So that was what his comment was. And I thought that was really interesting in some ways, but for me, it felt normal. But what I've realized over the last couple of years is that that's not normal.
Yeah.
It is not normal, especially in the business world. Church maybe is a little bit different, but not that different in the sense that it's normal for you, if you're considering or thinking about anything else, to have open communication with the lead and willingness to have those kinds of conversations. So I'm curious because for me, here at RCC, I've always felt like I could tell you anything. And even if it's not pretty or ugly, or if it's something that would possibly in another scenario offend like the lead person, or any of that kind of stuff, we've always had the policy where you just talk about everything. Yeah. And I want to just jump into that with you a little bit. Why do you do that? Why is that the way you do it? And how did it kind of start? How did it get to that place?
Wow. Okay. Oh, that's tough. I would say it started with just me and God. Like one time, a long time ago, I kind of wrote my own lyrics to a song, and it was all about being transparent to God, and that was my desire. Like I just wanted to be transparent. No like hooey, no BS. Just this is who I am. This is the best I got. Everyone can see, and some things are not that great, but no dishonesty. I've always wanted to just be transparent, both myself with God and then other people as they looked at me too. So it started with that, just how I felt like I should relate to God and relate to other people for myself. So if I'm so hoping to be transparent, then I'd want the people that I care about, whether coworkers or friends or whatever, to also be transparent with me. I just think that takes you to a whole nother level in your relationship, whether it is at work or with a friend, somewhere. It's just that raw honesty and just knowing that you don't have to doubt someone or question someone. They're just being honest with you goes so far in trust and developing and just even how much you care for the other person, because you just never got to guess.
Yes.
So it's about transparency for me.
Okay. So first and foremost, when can we see the lyrics to that song?
they're in a file drawer in my desk. Still.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal.
Yeah. If I could only sing. If I could sing, it might be something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The second thing is this. I think most people are scared of that.
Why?
But that's
why? No, why?
I think there's a idea out there that what you don't know can't hurt you.
What you don't know can't hurt you. Okay.
So like, I think there's I want to claim that I didn't know. And if you have the suspicion of something possible, so say somebody's working for whatever company B out there, and company B has, they sell little gadgets, and this person that works for that company is kind of the inventor and developer of those gadgets, with the CEO, and they talk to the CEO and say, hey, I'm thinking about going somewhere else. That's scary.
Yeah, I don't have any fear in that. In the end, God's in control anyways. And I think it's foolish to say how'd you say it? What you don't know can't hurt you.
Yeah.
I think what you don't know can hurt you. It can bite you in the hiney and really screw you up. I'd rather just know and then deal with it.
Sure.
Just deal with what's actually true. So, for example, for you, years ago, many years ago already, you had opportunities like, hey, this church maybe wants you to come there or whatever. And we just talked about it way back then, and all the way up to a couple years ago, there were different things we talked about. And I'd be a fool not to think, okay, maybe someone would be interested in Sam. I mean, Sam's really good. So obviously someone would be interested, and a fool also to think maybe you wouldn't be interested in that yourself. just out of curiosity, maybe not even like a passion for it, but just like, I got to find out what this is. And I think that's healthy, to go look at other things and figure out what they are and then make really good decisions for yourself. I think that's really good. And if God's will be done, it will be done. So I'd rather support God's will being done than fight against it.
Yeah.
And if you get in line with what God wants, things just work out. It sounds so basic, but I believe it to be true. So for me to support you and help you in your dreams, somehow that's only going to, in a selfish way, benefit me, because God will take care of me. You don't got to.
Yeah, but I think there's an interesting thing in that. Not only will God take care of you, I agree with you in that way, but I think there's some psychological, like, underlying things that happen when you feel like you can be safe to talk about anything with your superiors.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes you shouldn't necessarily always like complain about everything. There's a difference between complaining and talking openly about
Correct.
like the types of things, where would that line be for you? I'm just curious.
Well, part of it's just frequency. Like, sometimes you might have someone in your life that's just like, it's always something negative. They always say, okay, you just got to tune that out, So it's frequency a lot, right? So if it's someone who now and again has some issue with something, okay, it's time to listen. So frequency is a big part of it for me.
Yeah.
How it's brought about, is it brought about in anger, or is it a nice discussion? That's a whole different thing as well. Are they seeking feedback or an open discussion? Or are they just telling you? That's important as well.
That's really
so
good too.
Yeah, there's just different things that all feed into it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if someone's transparent, if someone's honest, if they approach it the right way, if they don't complain constantly, whatever the topic is, whether it's their future or an issue that maybe you even have with me or with anything, you just talk about it. We can't assume that we're always going to agree about everything all the time and then blow up when we don't. There's a ton of stuff we might not totally agree about, but if we talk it out, we'll find we have much more agreement than disagreement on pretty much every issue. So You start with everything you agree about, and then you work on the stuff you don't. Too often people do the opposite. Let's start with what we disagree about. You never get anywhere with that.
Yeah, I think that's actually really a very true statement. They do start with things that they disagree about. But when you start with things you agree about, then once you have common ground, you can take more ground. But if you don't have common ground, then there's no ground to be taken. Like, you can actually grow out rather than try to just get a little corner. Like, there's no corner if you're just starting with the disagreements.
Right. Here's an example. I kind of like your shirt today.
Thanks.
It's sort of like a t-shirt, but it's got the buttons, so it's a step above a t-shirt. The color's summery to me. That looks like a nice summer t-shirt. It looks pretty new. Is it pretty new?
It's pretty new.
Okay, see? All right. I like your shirt.
Thanks.
I do. Now, if I tell you I like your shirt a whole bunch of times, and then finally there's one time I was like, what's up with that shirt, Sam?
Totally.
Okay, maybe that shirt stinks, right? Great. That's a good, healthy relationship. You got to say the stuff you like, and then that opens the person up to something maybe you disagree with once in a while.
That's really good.
Right? If I tell you I don't like your shirt every day, all you got to do is tune me out, and you should tune me out. You don't need that negativity. But if you build trust with me in whatever we're talking about, and then now and again we disagree or I criticize, that's fair. We're not going to agree on everything, and same in reverse.
Yeah. So with our open communication idea, so this is, I think, a healthy workplace, a healthy family, a healthy team, all of those groups of people, they're healthy when they feel like they can have open communication, but it's still a positive place where you're claiming common ground first and the positive things you relate to each other, you agree about, and then also being willing to say the hard things when the hard things are there. But I guess I really want to dig into a little bit of the open communication when you have a connection with somebody. So, and that person, I guess the best way to say it is this. We've worked together for 11 years now. It's been quite a long time. It works with my anniversary because I've literally worked here since just before my wife and I got married.
All right.
So that's kind of a wild thing. We're coming up on 11 years in literally like 10 days. Okay. But anyways, 11 years. And over those 11 years, we've been able to be very honest with each other about lots of different things. And in that process, like even this transition that we're coming up on, all those things were open conversations that we were willing to have. Yeah. That's rare. But I think a heart issue in the midst of it or in the depth of it is, I think you care about the person more than the job.
Yeah. And more than yourself sometimes too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's real Christianity. Like you love the other person.
Yeah, exactly.
That changes your relationships if you're actually following Jesus. Like that changes it. You have so much care for them and respect for them and desire for them to be happy beyond just yourself being happy all the time.
Yeah. But that changes the dynamic because if I'm a person and I say I'm exploring different options for myself, if you were to come back to me and I say, oh, I'm kind of maybe exploring, and you say that's awful. If you tell me that again, I'm going to fire you because you shouldn't be looking elsewhere.
Right.
The next thing,
and that's standard in the business world.
Well, exactly. But the next thing I want to do is look elsewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Because in that moment, I feel trapped.
Right.
And when I feel trapped, I want to push away.
Yes.
But if you say, well, let's talk about it, all of a sudden I feel safe with you. And not only do I feel safe with you, I feel like I can have a place where I'm safe and I can grow. And maybe it's not so bad, or maybe it's really good. And I then can actually explore this place with new eyes as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And you've really done that here from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like from our first talks ever, you're like, well, this is what I'm excited about now, but in the future, I kind of like to maybe do that. And,
exactly.
And my response has always been, well, why don't you kick butt with what you're doing right now? And,
yep.
And your future will lay it out. And it has always, right? Like everything you've dreamt of even 10 years ago is like, oh, I'd like to try this. And eventually you tried it and you did really well at that. And then you moved on to the next thing. You allow people to grow that way.
Yeah.
You know, but you got to be open-minded enough to just let it happen, not be so restricted that it's got to be a certain way. You don't necessarily know what God's way is all the time, but you do know you should treat people well.
Yeah.
Right? That you know for sure. And if you do things God's way, stuff just works out. I feel like I say it every week, but it's so true. Too often, everyone fights God's way and then is upset when life isn't working out. Why don't you just give in? Let's try it. Go with the flow. God's got the flow. Jump in. Go with the flow. Go with God's way, and just see how it turns out. You're not going to drown.
Yeah. Well, we talked a couple weeks ago about how to get results. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was an awesome conversation. But off of that, one of the things that came out of that discussion that I think applies to today is sometimes you don't know the potential somebody has until you begin to have a conversation with them and test things out with them and grow with them. But the only way that you can begin to, one, see if what the potential is to put them in a place where they're happy, like where they feel like they're doing what they should be doing. And then two, like push them, encourage them, have that back and forth. And then listen to their feedback and listen to what they desire to do more of or less of. When you do that, then that person is kind of charting their own course, hopefully going the direction God wants them to go, and then becoming even more valuable than they would have if you had just said, this is your role, stick to it or leave.
Yeah. Yeah. The leader may not have the perfect idea of what everyone's role should be.
Yeah.
You have some idea, and that's good, but too often people think they have the perfect idea, and everyone's got to fit this puzzle that you've made all the pieces for. You know, I think you got to be a little bit more flexible than that.
Yeah. How do you stay flexible in that way?
I would say, number one, listening, which comes through in so many areas of life. We had a staff meeting today where we talked about listening a lot. But listening to the other person. Mm-hmm. You hear their dreams and their ideas come out, and you see what they're passionate about. And if people run with what they're passionate about, they're going to do a good job, right? If they're a talented person, hardworking person, caring, all those things. But if they're passionate about it, they're going to do a really good job.
Yeah.
And then you just get to watch that and cheer it on and then morph the position around them when possible. Like, just because you had certain dreams over the last 11 years didn't mean you instantly got to do whatever you were dreaming.
No,
right?
never.
Sometimes you had to wait, and it had to be the right timing and all that stuff, and you had to earn it and all those things. But it's not instant. But I think you always had the idea that it could maybe. Mm-hmm. And then once, oh wow, I did get the opportunity. Then you were that much more confident about getting another opportunity in the future, and then in the future, and trust is built.
Yeah, I think transparency is a big part of the trust part.
Yeah.
Super interesting. So, as you're thinking about these kinds of things and open communication, have you ever gotten burned by it?
Multiple times.
Okay.
Yeah, multiple times.
All right.
You still got to do what's right.
Okay.
And you're gonna get burnt doing what's right. People killed Jesus. They killed all the disciples. They killed all the prophets. As long as no one's killing you, you're beating all them, right?
This is true.
You're gonna get burnt, but like you can go to bed with yourself. You did the right thing. That should mean something to you on the inside. You did the right thing. You know it. You can look in the mirror and go, I did the right thing. You can go to bed, sleep well because you did the right thing.
Yeah.
It's on them if they burned you.
Yeah.
It's on them, and either they're going to experience the consequences of that in their day-to-day life in some form, or God will straighten them out. I don't know. That's not my business.
Yeah.
My job is to do the right thing. I'm going to do the right thing, and I'll deal with whatever comes.
And so you don't regret it at all?
Never.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've been burned. I've been burned, but I still don't regret it.
That's good to know. So let's say somebody's listening and they're in a leadership role, whether it's their family, they're a coach of a team, or they're a CEO or in some managerial role, and they're literally listening. Like, I could never have that kind of open communication with my employees, with the team members, or with my family. Like that. That's really scary. What would you say to that person?
Well, it depends on the culture you're in.
Yeah.
Right? Like here, being the first person here and starting the church with no people, I got to establish the culture.
Yeah.
And that made it easier, right? It just did. I was lucky in that way. So if you step into a culture, like at a workplace or whatever, you have to first deal with that culture, and the culture might not be what we're talking about. So you have to let that begin and start and grow slowly at first to change the culture. And you might not be able to go all in like this from the start, but you can build towards it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would say, like, don't go full bore and just say, like, let's just talk about everything at the first moment, but like take steps.
You just start in little ways.
Okay.
With one specific little task or whatever it may be.
Okay.
And maybe you have to start proactively like that. Like, hey, we're going to discuss, we're making new tables at our business, and it's been going a certain way. And we're going to have a little meeting right now, and we're all going to talk about the table.
Yeah.
We're just really going to say what we think. What's good about it? What's not good about it? How are we making it? Why should we make it? Should we keep making it? And let's just have a talk. And that's just about that table and that moment. An hour later, the talk's over and you move on. But you trained your people like, oh, we can talk about things honestly.
Yeah.
Right? And it was just a table today, but someday it'll be even more. But today it was a table. And maybe it benefited, like, oh, wow, the table's a little too big. I think we'd sell more tables if it was 2 inches smaller. We never thought of it, right? You'll still learn something in that process, but it really opens up the possibility of further, deeper talks.
And that's what is required in so many different areas, I think.
Yeah.
The further, deeper talks are the thing that we all desire, but we're all a little too scared to get to because of what the truth might have.
Correct. Like, for instance, I taught school for many years. A principal at a school might hesitate to bring all the teachers in and say, okay, what's going well at the school right now and what's not?
Yeah.
That's a dicey one, right? Because you got crabby teacher over there that's upset about everything all the time and whatever. It's just, and then they send the whole meeting off in the wrong direction. So you might not be able to do that. But you can talk about that one thing.
Yeah.
One small aspect of the school. We're focusing on this one thing. And then you just see how that goes. And maybe you improve the one thing or not, but the teachers now think they have a voice. Like, we got to talk about this one thing.
Yeah.
And it's important to them to have feedback and input into it. And then you just see, right? How do people handle it? And over time, you might need to weed people out that can't be part of that. They're just always negative, and they're never happy, right? You got to weed them out. But that's still good for the organization.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's interesting. It's just fun to think about the fact that if you have that kind of open communication, people begin to have buy-in too. Yeah. So if it's part of your idea, or I had some input on the size of this table or whatever it is, I now am sold on why it's the best thing. Yeah. And suddenly I have more, because I have more buy-in, I'm more passionate with my job. I'm doing a better job of it. And it just buy-in makes a big difference. Yeah,
you could say the same thing in coaching, which, I have a bit of a coaching background as well. Sometimes coaches make the mistake there'll be a talented person on the team. And, maybe they don't work so hard, but they're talented and you think you can need them because they're going to score some points for you or whatever it is. Your team's going to stink. You're never going to be a championship team. You're better off without the person. They're a really good player, but they don't work very hard. All they're doing is convincing everyone else on the team they don't got to work hard too. You can't build a championship team that way. You're better off without the star player and then finding players that actually work hard, because eventually they'll be really good. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So you got to build the right team, whether it's at home, at work, on a team, right? In a classroom. Yeah. You set the culture, you build the team, and sometimes it's not your star players that you really want. It's the people with the right attitude that you want. It's really interesting because one of the things that you just said, and I'm just picking up on it now, but sometimes you do have to weed people out. Like, sometimes people aren't ready for the open communication sort of thing. There's a healthy emotional intelligence that's required for that sort of discussion. And when you're building a team, you have to make sure that each person there is able to get up to that level. Maybe you don't start there, but you get there and you have that trajectory. And if you can have that kind of open communication and that kind of emotional intelligence when you're having those discussions, then you can go places. But there is a reality that open communication can be detrimental if you don't have that intelligence there. Yeah, I'll pick on Danny here for a second. In his first interview here at the church, I pushed all my questions aside and started with, "Why don't you dress better for this?" And I wanted to throw him off, because if he botches that, we might as well stop now. Yeah. And he was great about it. The way he answered it was honest, and he was thinking, and maybe even had a little different thought process than I would have had. but I appreciated his too.
Yeah.
The way he thought about it and the reason it was different than mine, but equally good, right? And that said, okay, now here's a guy that you can put on the spot and he can handle it. And he can talk about real stuff under pressure. That was super important to me. That was one of the most important questions. Why didn't you dress better? Right?
Which is great.
Yeah.
Because you have to assess the situation too. Like those kinds of questions, when you throw somebody off and see how they respond, you can't plan those questions always. You can try to, but if you can get them off and see how they respond, you just now made yourself aware of their ability to be kind of pushed one side or the other. And if they can handle that, and if they can handle that, they can handle some other things.
Yeah. And his answer was great. Basically saying, well, this is who I really am. I didn't want to put on a false front for you. Like, whatever. And I just want to come in honest. And okay. I like that, right?
Yeah.
I also like, though, if someone would have came in and really dressed up because I thought it was important.
Yep.
There's not necessarily the right answer.
No.
But you got to have a good answer, your answer that's true and transparent. And that was him being true and transparent.
Yep.
Right. And next time he showed up dressed really nice too.
He sure did.
He did it all. So it was good. But that's how you establish culture.
Yeah. That's really good.
He could have disqualified himself in 2 minutes.
But he didn't. Good for him.
And now it's whatever, year and a half later, and look how well he's done.
Okay, I have one more.
Despite his phone going off during podcast.
I love that we have the microphone right now. This is so great.
I know. Let's talk about Danny.
I'm curious about it in a family. So this is one of the. I'll have this be our kind of final little part.
Speaking of Danny, I'm sorry. It's so hard for me to stay on topic. Youth group, our teens are leading worship this Sunday. Danny's teens, his teen ministry, his student ministry is leading all the worship. So that's it. They're singing, they're playing, they're doing all of it, and it's really good.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty jacked about it because that's very rare at a church that the teenagers can lead the whole service. I'm stoked. So I hope people hear this before Sunday and come. It's going to be a really fun experience for everyone there. And it's high quality, too. It's not like, okay, it's the kids, so it kind of stinks. It's really good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for our kids, and we have such amazing teens as part of this church.
We really
so
do.
It's great to have them lead because they're leaders, too.
It's awesome.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I started thinking about Danny, then I was thinking about youth, then I was thinking about music. And want to talk about songs? What do you got?
I want to talk about family.
Okay, family.
I want to talk about open communication with your family.
Right.
Okay, so I know that this is something that you do value really strongly with your family. And how did you develop that, and how has it played itself out a little bit? Okay,
open communication with the family. Well, I'm the leader in our family.
Yep.
I'm Daddy Bear. Don't wake a sleeping bear, first of all. Right?
Okay, sure. This is good.
The bear's asleep, you leave the bear alone. So that's a principle in our family. But the first principle, the guiding principle number one is respect your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we're going to have open communication, it starts there.
Yes.
Respect your mother. She gave birth to you. She cares for you all day long, every day. She will do more for you in your life than anyone else ever will do. Even everyone else combined won't do what your mother does for you. So respect your mother. Treat her well.
Yes.
Now that we've established that, now we can talk about anything else. So you have some complaints or some issues or anything, we can talk now. But it's not going to come in the midst of disrespecting your mother.
It's not going to wake you up. It's not going to disrespect your mother.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
And now we can sit down, and those are my things. That's it. We do that. And after that, speak freely.
But that's really cool because that principle applies all across the board. You just establish boundaries.
Yeah.
And the complaints that I sometimes deal with are complaints about lunch or dinner, oh, it's not very good at whatever. That's the easy complaint that a kid can make, right? And
yeah.
And then you stop. And then you
here's $4. Go to the store, buy your own food, and cook it, man. And apologize to your mom on the way out for complaining.
Exactly. But that's the thing, right? So you've established boundaries that they can have open communication within a set of boundaries.
Yeah.
Because you respect your mother. There are certain things there's lines we don't cross.
Yeah.
And that's a really healthy thing. And I think in the business world and in church world, you have those too. But
it's very few lines.
Yeah.
It's a really big box to play in.
Yes.
If you can't handle just making sure you respect your mother, that's the big rule. You got problems. I'm just going to tell you got problems.
Yep.
Because a lot of places have lots of rules. You got one.
Yeah.
Okay, one. You can handle that. Very, very simple, very straightforward.
Yeah.
I don't throw it, they're grown now, but you might even disrespect me a little bit in the midst of the conversation. A little bit edgy with me. I can handle it. We'll be fine afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Don't disrespect your mother, though. So it's a really big box. We can play really well inside this box together.
And they have.
They're awesome.
That's an awesome thing.
They're grown men, and they're amazing to their mother. I'm so proud of it.
That's awesome.
Of them. They know how to treat a woman properly. That's really good. And it starts with your mother.
Yeah.
You don't treat your mother right, I don't know who you're going to treat right.
That's really true.
So
that's really good.
But that's I'm very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that sounds super strict. I don't know, but that's me. That's what's important to me. Now, how about you say, Junior, why don't you say what's important to you?
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, well, I don't think I should cut the grass every week, or, all the normal stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, why not? And then you can have a real conversation.
Yeah.
You can cut it every 10 days because it doesn't need to be cut that often, or whatever it is. My brother should cut it. I don't know. There's real conversation to be had there.
There is.
Okay. I don't got to shut it down. Let's have the conversation.
Yeah. And then they get to ask the why questions, and you get to answer those why questions, and they feel like they know where the boundary is, and then they can live within that boundary and have a really strong personality, a really strong will, and still be healthy within a family.
Yeah.
And actually be self-confident because of that.
Yeah, they're very strong-willed and very self-confident.
But that's what I want for my kids. I mean, I want them to be strong-willed and confident and feel like they know what they want. They know what's required to get it. They know what's realistic and what's reality. And then they also respect people well, starting with their mother.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts about open communication? Anything we haven't talked about? This is something I'm kind of just processing for the last couple of weeks because it's something that hit me in an interesting way. That's something we do kind of naturally because you've set the culture. Yeah. And I don't want to lose that here. I want to keep that in really strong form.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes people say, "Oh, you're really good at communicating. You share, whatever. You're good at communicating," and it's super, super important to me. And I try to be good at it. But most of the time, when I analyze, it's like, "Ooh, I should have done that better."
Yeah. That's true.
It's so important. You're never all the way there. And it goes from, you might have done a good job today, but you can totally botch it tomorrow. Even though it's a priority for you, just accidentally you botch it. So communication is just one of those things. It's critically important, and you got to think about it all the time. Yeah. Because even if it's important to you and you think you're decent at it, it slips. It just does by accident. You get your mind on stuff. So that's the takeaway from this for anyone. It's communication is so important. You got to think about it and do your best every single day.
Yeah.
And if you botch today, okay, show up tomorrow and do a better day. Have a better day.
Yeah, that's really good. The takeaway I'm going to take from it is really the boundaries thing. I haven't thought about it like that, because I think if you can establish healthy boundaries in a big sandbox to play in for communication, I think you can really allow people to feel safe to communicate the things that are really important, but know how to do it. And that way that they can really get into the nitty gritty without feeling like they're scared to broach that subject or something like that.
Well, you could say it here at church, like it's not respect your mother here, but it's we expect excellence.
Yeah.
Don't come to me with complaints and junk if you're not trying for excellence all the time. We expect everyone to work really hard and care what they're doing. Those are boundaries, and I don't want to hear your complaints. I don't want to hear your ideas if you're not working super hard, shooting for excellence, caring for people. There's certain boundaries here that you just have to deal with if you're on staff. But then within that, there's a lot of freedom. Definitely. And I would say that for whether it's someone's home or your workplace or your team or whatever it is, if you're the leader, you get to set the boundaries. So be very thoughtful of which ones you pick, and there's only a few really important ones. I really like that. I think that's awesome. Awesome. Well, that's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for chatting about open communication and drinking the tap water. Thanks for your signature water. I'm going to put this on a shelf somewhere, I guess. Awesome. Maybe sign it for me. No, that's all right. It's all yours. But thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We will see you here next week for another episode of Unscripted. Peace. See ya. Awesome.